and say what he wants, but he won't fight me either. So once I knock out Mike Perry, Conor McGregor, let's run it, but you won't do it because you know what's going to.
Conor McGregor and Jake Paul have become two of the most controversial figures in the world of combat sports. McGregor, once the undisputed king of the UFC, has seen his star fade in recent years. Meanwhile, Jake Paul, a YouTube sensation turned fighter, has gained attention by beating former athletes in the ring. The latest chapter in this drama unfolded when Jake Paul boldly declared that McGregor is avoiding him, opting to take the easier route by agreeing to a boxing exhibition with Logan Paul instead of facing him in a legitimate fight. But is Jake's bold stance justified, or is he simply trying to stay relevant in a world that has moved on from his antics? Jake Paul has earned his reputation in the fight world not only through knockout victories over former MMA stars like Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley but also by his ability to generate headlines. He's not just fighting, he's making waves. Recently, on a podcast with his brother Logan, Jake claimed that Conor McGregor is washed and avoiding a fight with him because McGregor knows what would happen if they squared off. Jake didn't hold back, calling McGregor's reputation into question and accusing the UFC legend of clinging to past glory. The timing of Jake's comments is notable. McGregor is preparing to return to the ring, but not in the UFC. Instead, he has signed on for a boxing exhibition with Logan Paul in India, backed by the wealthy Ambani family. This announcement raised eyebrows, but Jake immediately seized the opportunity to criticize McGregor's move, labeling it irrelevant and accusing him of choosing an easier opponent in Logan Paul rather than taking on someone who would truly challenge him like Jake. According to Jake, McGregor's choice of Logan as his opponent shows he's afraid to face someone who could push him to his limits and potentially expose him as a fighter who hasn't won a meaningful fight in years. Jake didn't stop there, mocking McGregor for his off-ring behavior, including what he perceives as McGregor's reliance on distractions to stay in the spotlight. Jake Paul has never shied away from controversy, and his latest jab at Conor McGregor cuts deep. He accused the former UFC champion of relying on substance use and clinging to an aura of invincibility that has long since faded. Jake's insult was sharp, claiming that McGregor's legacy is tarnished and that he is no longer the dominant fighter who once ruled the UFC. According to Jake, McGregor has abandoned real competition in favor of exhibition matches, desperate to stay in the spotlight rather than reclaim his former glory. While Jake's call-out might seem like the antics of a brash young fighter looking for attention, there's some truth behind his words. McGregor's career has been on a downward trajectory for years. His last significant victory came in 2020 when he dominated Donald "Cowboy" Cerrone. Since then, it has been a series of setbacks. He suffered back-to-back losses to Dustin Poirier, the latter ending in a devastating leg injury that sidelined him for over 3 years. His highly anticipated return against Michael Chandler in June 2024 was abruptly scrapped, leaving fans frustrated and fueling speculation about whether he can ever return to his peak. Jake's criticism highlights a harsh reality: McGregor's recent years have been more about headlines and personal drama than actual success in the ring. His lack of real competition has left many questioning if he is still a legitimate force in combat sports or merely trying to stay relevant through non-competitive exhibitions. Meanwhile, Jake Paul has remained active, consistently keeping his name in the fight world. His victories over former MMA fighters like Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, and Anderson Silva have helped him establish credibility. While critics argue his opponents were carefully selected to avoid true challenges, Jake has still managed to maintain momentum in the fight game. In contrast, McGregor's inactivity and uncertain future make Jake's claims all the more compelling. Perhaps the former UFC king truly is avoiding a fight that could expose how far he has fallen. Jake Paul has made a name for himself in combat sports, while Conor McGregor has increasingly become more of a sideshow. Though McGregor's name still generates buzz, it's clear he is no longer the force he once was. His prolonged absence from the winner's circle, coupled with ongoing legal and personal troubles, has raised serious questions about his motivations. Is McGregor truly fighting to rebuild his legacy, or is he simply content with cashing in on exhibitions and maintaining his persona for the cameras? Jake Paul's criticisms of McGregor go beyond personal attacks, they highlight a deeper issue: McGregor's flawed approach to his return. Instead of challenging the best to prove he still belongs among the elite, McGregor has chosen lower-risk exhibition bouts that won't further damage his reputation. His upcoming match with Logan Paul, though generating massive publicity, is seen by many as more of a spectacle than a legitimate fight. Logan's boxing credentials, while impressive in terms of entertainment, don't establish him as an elite competitor. His draw with KSI in an exhibition match against Floyd Mayweather do little to position McGregor as a top-tier fighter again. Jake sees this as McGregor's desperate attempt to cling to relevance while dodging a real challenge. By taking the safer route, McGregor risks fading into irrelevance in the world of combat sports. And Jake, ever the provocateur, is more than happy to remind him that his legacy is at stake. He argues that McGregor is avoiding a real fight, one that would truly test his abilities and silence critics. Instead, McGregor, in Jake's eyes, is afraid to step into the ring with him. The core issue, as Jake sees it, is that McGregor has become a victim of his own past success. Once the brash, fearless warrior who called out anyone and everyone, McGregor now appears more concerned with protecting what's left of his reputation. His comeback seems more focused on making money through flashy exhibitions than on reclaiming his place among the greatest fighters. If he continues down this path, McGregor may soon find himself completely overshadowed in a sport that no longer waits for legends to catch up. Jake Paul claims that Conor McGregor's career has become a spectacle, more of a product for sale than a true redemption story. However, Jake himself isn't the perfect example of traditional combat sports success. His rise has been fueled by entertainment rather than facing elite competition. While he's been more active than McGregor in recent years, his credibility as a fighter remains in question. His opponents have been chosen more for their name value than their skill, and there's still a considerable gap between Jake and the top fighters in both boxing and MMA. His knockout of Ben Askren was impressive, but Askren was never known for his striking. Likewise, his victory over Anderson Silva, while respectable, didn't solidify Jake as a serious boxing contender. He remains an outsider trying to force his way into the conversation. While McGregor's legacy is undeniable, his recent choices raise concerns. The former UFC double champion has drifted away from competitive fighting, prioritizing exhibition matches over real challenges. His upcoming bout with Logan Paul, while financially lucrative, does little to re-establish him as a top-tier fighter. For McGregor, the key question is whether he still has the hunger to compete at the highest level. His last significant victory was in 2020 against Donald Cerrone, and since then, he has suffered back-to-back losses to Dustin Poirier, including a devastating leg injury that sidelined him for years. His much-anticipated return against Michael Chandler in June 2024 fell apart, adding to his growing list of setbacks. Meanwhile, Jake Paul continues to push for a showdown with McGregor, claiming the Irishman is avoiding a real challenge. Jake believes McGregor's reluctance to face him proves he is no longer the fearless competitor he once was. However, Jake himself has yet to face a truly elite boxer. Ultimately, both fighters are engaged in a battle for relevance. If McGregor doesn't step up and take meaningful fights, his legacy may be overshadowed by controversy and spectacle. As for Jake, his biggest test remains proving he belongs among real boxing contenders. The only certainty is that their war of words and their fight for attention will continue.